Hello and welcome to the second part of Lesson 5, Preparing the Cover and Application Letter. So before we start the discussion, I have just two simple requests for all of you. First is to get a notebook, a notepad, or a scratch paper and jot down all the important details and ideas that you need to know and remember. Second is to focus. Let's start. Today's discussion will focus on preparing the cover and application letter, writing a job application letter or a cover letter, the content of a cover letter, designing the curriculum vitae or the CV, basic rules of CV writing, resume versus curriculum vitae, guidelines for writing effective CV, and of course, the mistakes and pitfalls to avoid in writing a curriculum vitae. After 5 or 10 years, you will enter the world of professional work. But before you land in any job, one of the first steps that you have to do is, of course, to apply for it. And how are you going to do that? You first need to prepare a cover or application letter. So what is a cover letter? This one is extremely important as your resume or curriculum vitae. The purpose of this is to persuade your reader to consider reading your resume. And this contains little information of the job which you are applying, as well as your strongest qualities and qualifications. So a job application letter or a cover letter is like a sales letter in which you sell your knowledge and competence. So here you are marketing yourself. It's the most essential part of the application, as this is far more than just a note saying, please find enclosed my curriculum vitae. So this is part of your application that really sells you to your potential employer. So without it, your resume is unlikely to be read. Of course, writing your cover letter is like a competition, and the judges are your readers or are your employers. So they are professionals who select and hire employees for the betterment of their companies. Imagine having hundreds of applicants, so you have to make sure that your application letter has to stand out. Therefore, your application letter and accompanying resume have to attract professionals' attention. So your final goal here is to be able to get an interview. So in writing one, it's very important to achieve the following tasks. First is to catch the reader's attention purposively. That's the first thing that you need to do. How? You're going to get their attention if you're going to tailor it to the company, to the employer, and to the job. Therefore, you have to know the company's mission, vision, and core values for you to be able to connect to those ideas that their company are aiming for. Also, you need to persuade the readers that you are a qualified applicant for the job. How? By having a well-written cover letter and curriculum vitae. You have to request also for an interview. So here are the checklist of the needed information after writing the application letter. The title of the job, the source of your information, and the statement of your objective have to be clear. You should always see to it that your purpose while you're applying to the job is very clear and is well understood by your readers. Also, there should be a summary of your qualification for the job. What are those? Your work experience, your educational background, and summary of relevant skills such as leadership, organization, intercultural, and etc. Also, you may indicate that you have enclosed your CV or resume in the application letter. Next is the request for an interview. So this includes the place and time you'll be available and the contact information such as phone numbers and email addresses, so that whenever a company is interested to having your service, they will be able to reach out to you easily. You have to identify the job. You have to include any information that's not included in your CV or resume. And right after that, of course, before submitting your application letter, you always need to proofread it carefully. So read it again twice or thrice, and it should be free from grammatical mistakes and organizational inconsistencies. You may also check for correct punctuation, margins, spacing, and of course, the letter format. That will make your application letter more professional and more reliable. Here are the general guidelines for the overall structure of your cover letter. First is to format your cover letter for post, mail, or email. It should also consist of one page only. And another thing that's very important is to include your complete address, your email address, and of course, your active phone numbers, again, for them to reach out to you easily. And of course, you need to use the title of the person when you addressed him or her in the letter. If you can find the name, then write Dear Sir, Dear Madam. Of course, it's very important to use the standard and easy to read font. So you make it readable. So we have fonts like Times New Roman, Arial, serifs, Century Gothic, which are easier to use, and it should not be smaller than 11 for readability on screen. So 12 as a font size is always a preferable one. So here are some application letters from jobstreet.com. Let me read it for you. So this is sample 1, 22H Venture Street, Diliman, Quezon City, Philippines. April 17, 2015. Mr. Vincent Chua, Hiring Manager, Bank of the Philippine Islands or BPI, 12th floor, Ayala Life, FGU Center, Ayala Avenue, Makati City, 1226. So this is the first address that you can see is actually your address as an applicant, and the second one is of course for your employer or for the company that you are applying to. So here it goes. Dear Mr. Chua, I am writing to express my interest for the position of recruitment assistance in your esteemed company. Having recently obtained my bachelor's degree in business administration, major in human resources development management, and the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, I wish to bring my knowledge, skills, and commitment to excellence to your company's innovative environment. As a business administration student, majoring in HR management, I've become equipped with the necessary knowledge that come with the position, including manpower recruitment, workforce organization, personal training and compensation, as well as legal provisions and other labor concerns. My internship at San Miguel Corporation My internship at San Miguel Corporation also afforded me with the crucial skills to work with some of the best professionals in the recruitment and human resources industry. Being a trainee has developed in me enthusiasm and a true passion for human resources and has subsequently convinced me that human resource management is my true calling. For additional details regarding my qualification and expertise, please review my attached resume. Thank you for asking the time to consider this application, and I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Jessica Senadosa. Another example, so you may pause the video for you to be able to read this one. So these application letters are of course sample for your reference only. So all information provided should be considered fictional. But as you can see, you can always find the address of the contact number of the applicant. So in the second example, you can locate it at the end of the letter. Well, going back on the first example that I read, the personal information, which includes the address, is located in the first part. So now, what are the contents of the cover letter? We have the introductory paragraph, we have the main section, and the closing paragraph. So we're now going to discuss each of them. First is the introductory paragraph. So this is the first paragraph, which is very important, for this must be very convincing. Why? This paragraph decides whether or not your readers will be interested in your letter and in the CV that is attached to your letter. So this tells the reader that you are, of course, the best person for the job. And also, this emphasizes that you have the set of skills and experiences that make you ideal candidate for the post. So here are some examples. I learned that you are in need of the position of English faculty, and I believe that I have the necessary credentials for this role. I have considerable working experience as an English language and literature professor, and I enclose my CV to support my application. Another, please find attached CV in application for the job of financial analyst advertised on your company's website. I strongly believe that my competence and experience, particularly at ABC Company, and my ability to do financial reports make me the right candidate for this post. Another, I am seeking a position as a manager in your data center. In such a management position, I can use my master's degree in information systems and my experience as a programmer or analyst to address business challenges in data processing. So those are introductory paragraph examples. Here's an example of informing your employer that one of their employees also informed you regarding the vacant positions. Please pause this video and read this example. So that's for the first paragraphs. So in the succeeding paragraphs, you need to expand on the qualification you mentioned in your opening. Of course, you have to add any appropriate details highlighting your experiences listed on your resume that is especially pertinent to the job that you are seeking. So if it is not relevant to the job that you want to apply for, better not add it in the application letter or even in the curriculum vitae. Following the introductory paragraph is the main section. So here, the summary of your qualification should be shown. And of course, this must be organized around the job description and the person's specification. So you have to describe what you have accomplished, your expertise, and of course, your special skill needed for the job. You also have to present your performed duty and demonstrate the requirement of your previous job. So you may even add a particular situation wherein you were able to showcase your expertise and deep understanding for the job that you had before. So that indicates that you did it successfully. In short, you have to show the clear description of the situation and more on what you did as proof of the results or outcomes. Meanwhile, this main section can be structured to show the subsection or subheadings. So the subsection or the other paragraphs consisting the main section guides the human resource manager on how each requirement is met. For example, the first paragraph of the main structure contains the experiences that you have. The second will be the skills that you have and the skills that you acquired for the job before. And the third paragraph or the third section can be composed of a particular activity or event which you facilitated and became successful. This is for your recruiter to read all the parts of your main section carefully and to see how you meet each requirement that they need. So the following are examples of phrases which can actually help you in doing or in writing your cover letter. So for example, this one, my ability to manage my team speaks for itself. I have accomplished the annual research forum in my department. Another, I hope it goes without saying from my list of previous jobs that I am extremely flexible and good at time management. For example, I first developed my communication skills in college but have improved it since I worked as a public relations officer in the previous job that I have. I want you to pause this video and read the example flashed on your screens. Second example. Third example. Next is the closing paragraph. But before we proceed to that, let us first recall the three parts that we have. First is the introductory paragraph. Second is the main section. And the third is this one, the closing paragraph. So this should be written concisely and of course neatly. So this paragraph will sum up your cover letter. That's why it should make clear what action the reader will be taking after reading your cover letter. And of course, you don't mean to sound arrogant. For example, I hope this convinces you that I have the necessary competence and experience to achieve as a mechanical engineer. I look forward to hearing from you. This is an example of a closing paragraph. You have to close with a request for an interview. So please pause this video and read this example. So for the letter, you have to end it with yours sincerely if you have addressed it to someone by name, and yours faithfully if you started it with dear sir or madam. So remember, before you submit your application letter or cover letter, you have to proofread it or polish it carefully. And if it's possible, you may ask someone to proofread it for you. We are now proceeding to designing the curriculum vitae, a CV or a resume. And of course, as one of the essential requirements for job hiring, your curriculum vitae should demonstrate to any prospective employer why they should hire you above any of the other candidates who have presented themselves for employment. So your CV or your resume must describe your education, your competence, and experiences. It defines what kind of applicant you are for the job. It also determines if you are the right person for the job. Of course, in writing your curriculum vitae or resume, you should always consider its reader. So remember the audience analysis we discussed during lesson 1. So that is still appropriate and of course very important in this discussion. Why do you need to do the analysis or the audience analysis? Why do you need to know your audience? Why do you need to analyze your audience? Because in this case, your readers are actually your recruiters. So they are usually the resource managers or the human resources or any other staff in the recruitment department assigned to screen applicants through their curriculum vitae. So of course, you need to stand out and avoid being eliminated by following these basic rules in writing a curriculum vitae or a CV or a resume. First is to write it with the recruiter or the human resource manager in mind. If you will be the recruiter, what do you think you will need for you to be able to hire someone to work for your company? You have to think of that. Next is to present your CV or your resume to inform them well about what they need to know. Of course, show it in a way that it reveals very professional and of course contains credible information. Another, a well-written CV or resume limits the chance of not selecting you. If your CV or your resume is of course well written, without grammatical errors, and of course with proper and appropriate structure and organization, it easily puts you in the short list. Also, CV or resume are the most important document needed in job screening. Why? Because they provide the highlights of your qualifications, your work experiences, your competence, your professional and educational history. And since you are requesting for an interview, questions which cannot be asked during a timed interview can of course be found on your CV or your resume. So in some academic institutions, the CV or the resume is the standard for job applications. Of course, the objective of both remain. However, the appearance of the documents is noticeably different. Let's see. So, what are the differences of resume and curriculum vitae? First is the length, second is the purpose, and third is the layout. How do they vary? So for the resume, this is just a brief summary of skills over 1 or 2 pages. This is just a short document with no particular format rule and of course highly customizable depending upon the employee. Of course, the goal of this is to make an individual stand out from the competition. A resume does not have to be ordered chronologically. It also does not have to cover the whole career, just the necessary ones which are of course applicable and relevant to the job description that you are applying for. This just contains three simple sections. First is the name and contact information, education, and work experience. A CV, on the other hand, is more detailed and, of course, can be more than 2 pages. So this covers your entire career history and has a chronological order listing the whole career of the individual. The latest of your credentials shall be the first to appear in your curriculum vitae. In writing your curriculum vitae, you have to consider the following information. First is the area of interest. Second is your education. Third is your grants, honors, and awards. And of course, if there are publications and presentations, if you have presented a paper or a research paper, your employment and experience, your academic membership, and of course, your character reference. Also, you need to include your contact details at the top. So this is the most important part, or this is one of the most important details that you need to put, so don't ever forget your contact details. Also, you decide whether you want to start with a personal statement or a career objective. So what is your objective in applying for that specific company you are applying to? Also, include the sections on key skills, knowledge and achievements, work experience, and education. So when you are discussing your achievement, focus on what you have actually done and end result achieved. Also, you need to include everything relevant in the work experience and education sections, because that will be very important for your employer to see if you have the experiences already, or if you are if you have the degree, if you have the bachelor's degree, if you have the master's degree or the doctorate degree, which of course is an advantage. You need to make sure that your spelling and grammar are all correct. Again, it's very important to ask someone to proofread or reread your letter and your CV. And of course, you need to work on your presentation. How are you going to present your CV is of course very important. You may make your own template, or you may download from the internet, or you may, of course, follow your creativity in presenting your curriculum vitae. If you have the guidelines, you also have the mistakes and pitfalls to avoid in writing a CV. Or in writing your CV, first is of course, do not be tempted to lie just to look good. So again, even in writing, honesty is still the best policy. So avoid leaving gaps in your career history. Do not start your CV with the dull bits. Do not include your hobbies and interests, especially if it's not relevant to the job that you are applying for. Don't make your CV too long, and of course, do not use an unprofessional email address. So you need to change your email or create a new one specifically designed for your work. So there, we are now done discussing lesson 5. For your performance task, you need to design your own curriculum vitae. And of course, see to it that you have applied or followed the guidelines and avoid the mistakes that we discussed. I'm going to upload the instructions and rubrics in your Google Classroom. So thank you very much for watching this discussion video. I hope you learned something from this lesson. Thank you very much and see you on our synchronous meetings.